We're live.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to the live version of the Marketing Blender Show. I am Dacia Coffee.
And I'm Daisy McCarty.
Now, for most of you guys, I don't know if you know or not, but we do a weekly show on all of your favorite platforms for podcasting, as well as YouTube and all of your socials. But often, instead of picking our own topics, we pick your topics. That means you guys have sent in questions to us, and actually, you can go ahead and chat us up right now because the amazing and fabulous Samaria Boyd is in the back, fielding your questions, talking back, and basically throwing the grenades our way that we're going to go ahead and tackle on how to make sure that marketing is working to grow revenue.
That's right. I'll throw myself and protect our marketing monkey.
Exactly. So, Samaria, welcome. And where are we starting today?
Alrighty, so we're going to start with the question that was sent in from Sergio. It looks like he's asking, I keep hearing that I need to update my SEO strategy for voice search. Is that true?
Oh, Daisy, SEO master.
All right, fun question. So the first follow-up question is obviously what industry you're in, because that's going to determine.
Yep.
So voice search is becoming a thing. SEO is starting to, the bots have been listening to you for a long, long time. Now they're starting to answer back when you ask questions. So if you are in an e-commerce industry, voice search, absolutely important for you to know, because guess what? People will say things like, Alexa, I need to order blah, blah, blah. And you want to be the e-commerce site that's found and served up in response to that. If you are some kind of local service-based business, I would also say look into local search, because if somebody's under their sink with pipes bursting in their face and they're like, Siri, get me the nearest plumber, you know what? That's a great thing to be found for. I would say for our business-to-business clients, usually not something they need to worry about. For right now, there's not a whole lot of distinction between the kind of content you should be creating for typed or written search queries versus what you would be writing for voice search queries. So if you're structuring your SEO content properly, where you're using long tail keywords and you're answering frequently asked questions in your content, Google already knows how to find that and how to serve it up in response to voice search. So long tail keywords, answer commonly asked questions, do it immediately in your content, not, oh, I'm going to preface my response with 2 paragraphs of filler before I get to the answer to the question. Subheader 2, question, immediate answer in that first block in the paragraph. That's going to give you the kind of content that Google recognizes as ways to answer queries that people use in voice search. But if you're thinking that, oh, I'm an HR consultant and people are going to ask Siri to recommend an HR advisory firm to them, that's not how people use it. So always think about, how are my buyers actually interacting with voice search? If you're sharing informational, educational content that gives them answers, that's fantastic. Also remember that when Google or whatever voice assistant is answering them, they're not necessarily going to give them a citation. So it doesn't mean that they're going to credit you with, oh, this amazing piece of advice or this incredible answer came from this company. As if they're typing it in and they're on a desktop or their mobile phone, they're going to see your brand associated with it. So, getting all bent out of shape about, oh, am I keeping up with voice search? If you're in B2B, you can slow your roll a little. See if people start using it in interesting ways that maybe you can take on board and consider deploying for your target market. That's great, but don't feel like you need to do we need to deep dive and revamp all our SEO. Probably not.
Yeah. And Sergio, I love that you are looking and paying attention to the things that Google or other platforms are prioritizing. So it's always really important, because to Daisy's point, if you are in a B2C type of industry, being an early adopter can be really beneficial if you're doing it strategically. So she mentioned a couple of different things, and so I'm just going to take it back. What does SEO strategy even mean? So making sure that you have got that audit of your keywords and that you are really matching it to what is the intent behind it. So there's transactional intent. Somebody needs to buy, or, oh my gosh, there's water in my face, like with the plumber example. There is navigational or informational intent, where people are searching or trying to find something. And then also there's different ways to rank in Google and for organic. So if you're local and it's a Map Pack, and that's your Google My Business. If it's informational and these are more complicated and B2B, there's blogging. If it's really advanced and if it's really competitive, you're looking at backlinks. We personally love making sure that you're ranking on YouTube, and that's how you're structuring your descriptions, structuring your content, using chapters so that you can be found and be searchable. So I love your answer specifically, and I just always want to bring it back to that strategy. And if you're like, wow, I've never heard half of what you just said, oh boy, just get really good at asking smart questions to find an expert, because this is an exciting place where you can really win. But SEO is the long game. It's the long game in order to really create exciting lead generation.
And one more tip, Sergio, if you are in a local service-based business and you want to be found on any kind of search, get Google reviews.
Yes.
That is the number one thing that Google rewards in all kinds of searches, the thing that's going to take you to the top of that 3-pack for Google Maps. It's going to help you get your website ranked higher for organic SEO. And guess what? Google's going to make decisions about who to recommend in terms of local service providers. That's one of the things that doesn't matter how that inquiry is coming in. They're going to be looking at how many reviews do you have for your site.
Love it. Love it.
Alrighty. From Brandon over on Facebook, one marketing firm told me that I should identify my 10 best performing content pieces and scrap the rest. Will that hurt or help my SEO?
Oh, this is an SEO day. Let's go.
All right. So this
No.
should have gone in our reaction videos.
I know,
to
I'm a little like,
bad marketing
"Ooh."
advice.
Yeah.
Okay. So I understand where this advice is coming from. You've got the 80-20 rule with SEO, just like you have with everything else. You've got some content that's going to be just killing it for you, and you've got content that is not really doing much for you. However, SEO is an ecosystem. If you think that you can keep your top 10 blogs and remove everything else from your website and it won't have any impact on your SEO, you don't understand how SEO actually works, because everything works together. If your site goes from 100 pieces of SEO content around clusters of keywords, even if some of them are on page 5 or page 10 of rankings, it's that rising tide that causes all the boats to rise with it. So if you suddenly go to being a website that has just 10 pieces of content, 10 pages that are optimized, what happens to your domain authority? You're no longer the expert on this. You just have a handful of blogs that happen to rank really, really well. What happens when they're no longer evergreen? What if you, instead of saying, I'm just going to keep my top 10 blogs and get rid of the rest, why aren't you looking at the other 90% and saying, this one just needs a little love? This one with a video added to it, or an FAQ section added to it, or some images, an image pack or carousel, that could actually help it start moving up and give me yet another inroad for people to find my website and drive traffic. So the all or nothing of, just want to get your flagship content, or you want to get your best performing. It's kind of that whole viral strategy where people are like, I just need a handful of pieces of really high performing content. That doesn't happen in a vacuum. That happens because you have built an ecosystem of content.
And it goes back to what's the role of the SEO for that company, right? So for instance, there are certain clients that we have where we've deployed SEO because we are planting seeds for future pipelines, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, maybe even 18 to 2 years from now, where we are planting the seeds of the domination that they want in the future. And then we have other tactics in the ecosystem that are lead generators. Now, there are other clients, because the SEO competition is low, where SEO is a lead generation. And so it's about that strategy, because I'll give you a specific example from Blender. We had the little page that could, we're deploying a whole bunch of SEO tactics, my goodness, like 9 or 10 years ago, and just testing out a whole bunch of stuff. And we came across mission and vision keywords, and we dominated those bad boys for over a decade. I think we still are top rankers. But here's the ding about that little amazing piece of content. It doesn't drive any leads for us. Yes, we do vision and mission. Yes, we do core values work, but that search query has nothing to do with people needing marketing support. Now, we tried, we tested, we looked at it, we added conversion optimization to that page. Can we create sales flows? And the answer was a resounding no. So I really, when I hear this kind of advice, go, oh gosh, but what if they just accidentally ranked for something that is not an on-ramp to their business and to their revenue? And that is so possible. Branded keywords, if those are your best performing content because you were early to the game or you're an industry founder, another massively dangerous and high risk environment for you not to be planting seeds in other places. So, now I do want to add one little tip though, if we flip this question around. So if you have a great piece or 10 of content that's really performing and it is good for your business, don't rest on your laurels. Create a video, add more, constantly be paying attention to what's happening with those keywords and finding ways where you can maximize the value that you are providing to the audience and to the market that's landing on your page. So don't just go, oh, we've got this great little page and it just does its own thing. And that was from a long time ago. I do want people optimizing those pages and trying to get more and really thinking, how can we create a stronger on-ramp or stronger brand experience with these amazing content pieces? But good God, do not just throw the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, no reason to scrap all of that.
No.
Unless something is actively hurting your brand because it's so outdated or it's off point or it's no longer relevant or it's inaccurate in some way, it's not like you're paying per blog post of your website hosted. Just do your regular audits to see, is there something it's really time to make obsolete? But otherwise, just let it grow. And what you might find is that there are cyclical trends in what people are interested in. Also, if you think, well, only the top performing stuff should be out there, you're going to miss the boat on what are people going to be searching for a year from now that's got low volume now, but in 12 months or in 24 months, man, if we get in early, we're going to just crush it. And we saw that in our own business because we have a model that we were at the forefront of bringing into the marketing space.
Yep.
And we've been talking about it and writing about it for quite a while. And it didn't matter that it used to be, oh, this has 20 searches a month. That has 30 searches a month. Guess what?
Just when it hit big.
When it did. And
Yes.
that's direct lead generation because we weren't looking at, well, what are the massive volume keywords that we could put a lot of effort into trying to rank for? We're like, this is exactly what we need. Doesn't matter if it gets 5 hits a month.
Yeah.
One of those is going to turn into a customer.
Yep. That's right.
Alrighty. So from Candy, this is one of the questions that was sent in earlier. I want to try influencer marketing, but it is really expensive and I'm not sure where to start. What advice do you have for me? A little break from SEO.
I know. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Daisy's question. Are you in B2C? Are you in B2B? Because your industry matters a lot. Now, I'll start with B2C. I am primarily a B2B CMO, but I do want to speak to this because I've helped and consulted. There's a lot of shysters in regards to influencer marketing on B2C. So you've really got to be careful. And there's no crystal clear, hard and fast rules. So for instance, if you're in fashion, Candy, there's a lot of girls that are influencers, like legitimately big followers and high engagement, and they will take your clothes and resell them. This is not good. I mean, like there's kind of this racket that's going on. So first and foremost, I would say be really, really careful and just learn a lot. Try to find other people that are doing influencer marketing and learn from what they've done, what they haven't done well, and be crystal clear about what you're expecting, frequency, mentions, all sorts of stuff. I mean, it needs to be documented, and you want to build a relationship with somebody that cares about you and sees your sponsorship of their personal brand as significant, and they're honoring that. So that relationship component, but there are a lot of complexities there. If you can afford it, definitely at least interview some of those influencer agencies where then you've got an advocate on your side and somebody that really has been doing this. So I'm not saying that it's a magic bullet, but definitely consider this, because every question you ask is going to build your point of view and is going to advance you towards whether or not it's the right thing. Influencer marketing and B2B, love. love this idea because it's almost non-existent. And it also means because it's almost non-existent, it's practically free, not counting your attention and your time. Because when B2B companies or people come alongside one of another, you can really up level. So that shared alignment, maybe you have adjacent skill sets, you serve the same industry, but in different places, you can build each other's community, your reach. It can validate your point of view so much. And so this really can be a very strong relationship component. And sometimes it doesn't even require any monetary exchange. Now, again, healthy fences, healthy boundaries create healthy relationships. And so I do want a lot of clarity. Ask all the quote unquote dumb, embarrassing questions. What are you going to do for me? What am I going to do for you? Okay, I'm documenting. This is what our understanding is. And ask for what you want, but just be really open about exploring and what your expectations are. Influencer marketing, not affiliate marketing. I'm going to touch on that in a second, but influencer marketing has a tendency to be top of the funnel. So this is about reaching more people and getting your brand name out there and creating a halo effect on the coattails of what they've accomplished in your industry. So I want to see consistency and I want to see integrity in this space. Now, one final thing is, I did mention affiliate marketing, and this is where a person, if they are promoting your product, they're getting paid a percentage of what is sold through their link. Nothing wrong with this in the world. It's just a different tactic. And I wanted to kind of separate influencer from affiliate marketing. And I do like affiliate marketing. It's not a ton of money one way or the other, unless you both have really big reaches and there's a lot of serendipity and back and forth and really good e-commerce and nurture systems. But I digress. So thoughts from you, Daisy? Because this is a tricky one.
Yeah, so I'd like to talk a little bit first about B2B influencer marketing, because I had a client that asked me questions around this recently, and he was conflating thought leader with influencer.
Oh yeah, totally.
Now, in the B2B space, a person can be both a thought leader and an influencer, but you need to be very clear about the value that they're bringing to you in each of those roles. The benefit of having access to a thought leader is that you're gaining access to their insights. And this is going to make you better at what you do. It's going to give you a competitive edge. The value of having access to an influencer is that you have access to their audience. So if you're looking for an influencer in the B2B space, if they're super, super smart, but nobody listens to them, they're not an influencer, no matter how much you could gain from their wisdom. And I definitely, I love thought leaders. If you're looking for someone who is an influencer in B2B, you're looking for someone who has a lot of reach. So even if they're maybe not the ivory tower academic, if they are able to get out there and make people pay attention, that is an influencer that you want to have on your side. I'd like to go back to the B2C side for a moment.
Yeah.
And we do see a lot of this in small businesses and in retail, in brick and mortar, where people are like, well, I need to add an e-commerce aspect of what I'm doing and things like that. The important thing to remember is, to Dacia's point, it is top of funnel, but it shouldn't stay top of funnel. So if you're going to go after influencer marketing, you need to be thinking about, how do I build the pathway from they saw that cool content or they watched that video reel and they liked it, to they ended up on my email list and in my website and actually doing the next step. They're on my social media now, not just the influencer social media, because you want to be drawing people through the influencer into your target audience, where they are anchored to your brand and they have clear next steps for what they're going to do. Even if it's not buying something right away, how are you going to keep them engaged? So if you haven't planned any of that out, do not spend money on an influencer, because all you're going to get is a flash in the pan and then nothing. I'm going to loop Samaria in on the next one. Yes, because one of my favorite things that Samaria shared, because she does all of our social media and social media for our clients, including some B2C companies. This was the tip you gave, Samaria, around if they don't have money for influencers, what can they do instead?
Honestly, if you don't have money for influencers, first of all, start on the inside of your organization. There are plenty of people who have charisma, and people who are knowledgeable inside of your organization. So I think that would be the first thing I would say to do. The other thing is, I think I definitely agree with you guys when you say, like, kind of be weary of the influencers that you're choosing and make sure that you're actually vetting them. Because honestly, a lot of people will say they're influencers, and like you said, they're literally just smart people in the industry or just thought leaders. And there's a big difference when it comes to how they're going to bring in, like, I guess, the engagement that you're looking for and the potential clients and moving them over to your social versus them being on their social. So yeah, I guess just my thing would be use yourself first. Use yourself first, and try your best to find somebody who, if you don't have the money for an influencer, try to like substitute that with somebody inside your industry who's knowledgeable, has charisma, and is willing to be in front of the camera.
Absolutely. Also, if you can run co-promotions with other businesses that are, they don't think that they're worth $100,000 just to promote your thing, but especially if there are other local businesses that you can go in together and say, hey, let's put together a cool contest. Let's put together a joint campaign. That way you can share the wealth. You can access each other's networks and you can grow together. That's another way that you can start out if you don't have the money for a high-priced influencer.
Love it. Love it.
All right.
Okay. I'm sorry. Back on the hot seat. I forgot to use the question. Alrighty. So from Pat, my target audience is on LinkedIn. So I want to do LinkedIn ads, but everyone I talk to says they're expensive and don't work. How can I make sure I get ROI if I advertise on LinkedIn?
Oh, good question. So first of all, Pat, bravo that you know and that you're making decisions based on my target market is on LinkedIn. Good.
Nice.
You're already so far ahead of the game versus maybe I should be on LinkedIn. So really good decisions there because you're in the right place. So strategically, I'm always thinking messaging. Is your message really going to land? Have you done the work on what converts interest and inquiry, even what grabs their attention and what defines interest? So I think that's really important. And these are just fundamentals around any types of ad campaigns. Now, the interesting thing about is LinkedIn expensive or not? I kind of want to tackle this because it depends, right? So it depends on how much Pat's offer is, right? So if she's got a very high volume, if it's high volume, but if it's a low cost offer, then it might be harder to get the ROI. But if her offer is something where it's, $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 for a single client, so expensive is relative. I always want to, start there with campaigns, that type of thing. Now, we've seen LinkedIn go up and down. We've seen it be wildly successful for some clients and really kind of a miss for others. But I'll be honest, Daisy, you've been a lot closer to the paid LinkedIn campaigns recently. Like I probably haven't headed one up in about 18 months specifically. Mm-hmm. So what are you seeing?
So the interesting thing about LinkedIn is that you can run so many different types of ad campaigns and they each have a different purpose. So my favorite type of LinkedIn ad campaigns is to run direct lead gen with a high value asset. Now I see this work consistently across my B2B clients, but it has to be something that people really, really want and that they can't get somewhere else. So if you're offering something that's a lead magnet on LinkedIn, it can't just be any old thing. It has to be something that's really, really high value, that's unique, that's the thing that people, the minute they see it, they want it. So you can't run search intent on LinkedIn like you can on Google, which means nobody's on LinkedIn typing in, I'm looking for a do-do-do, and you can just say, well, I'm offering a do-do-do. It has to be something that they love so much that no matter when you put it in front of them, they're like, oh, I want that right now. So if you have that kind of offer in the B2B space, you can clean up with LinkedIn ads and you can get massive, massive ROI. We've been consistently doing LinkedIn generation, lead gen for architect personas for one of our clients. And we're talking, $100, $150 per warm qualified lead. And if even one deal closes off of that type of lead, we're talking, moderate size deal, $20,000 to $50,000. So that's a no-brainer when it comes to ROI on marketing spend. We've been running that type of campaign for like the last 2 years, no end in sight. Now we refresh with, new stuff in that campaign, But otherwise, we're letting it ride, and we just, if we want more leads, we put more money in. So that's the ideal. That's the sweet spot. If you have like unique industry insights, unique industry data set that you can offer, that's often a really, really strong lead magnet for LinkedIn audiences, because they're usually on there to network and learn and get an edge, and they love benchmarking and stuff like that. Now, when you look at, traffic generation on LinkedIn, you want to make sure you're driving to the right places in your website. So just dumping people on your homepage from LinkedIn, not a good spend. There are so many more inexpensive ways to get traffic to your website. I wouldn't recommend using LinkedIn for that. However, if you have a specific page within your website that's designed to help people take a next action step, here, for example, contact a regional salesperson, get some local help with the thing that you need. Again, if someone's triggered by that, they're ready to take an action step. So being very, very aware of where you're putting people on your website. When it comes to just general brand awareness, you can reach a target market very effectively on LinkedIn as long as you have the roles and industries that match what LinkedIn provides for you. You can't just target whoever you want. It's not like Meta, where you can say, well, I want them to have read this magazine, and I want them to watch this TV show, and I want this and I want that. It's somewhat restricted. So for some of my clients, it's highly, highly targeted. We can figure out exactly, we want safety and structural engineers who work in water and wastewater treatment. We can get really, really granular. And for that type of thing, brand awareness, it doesn't actually have to cost a lot, because you don't have a massive audience, because you're being very, very specific. But again, what's the offer that you're sending to them? When it comes to just general brand awareness, if you can get things like video content that didn't have a really low cost per view, or, carousel ads where it can show them to 80,000 people for a few $100s, that can be a good spend. But it's all about the targeting, and it's all about what is an acceptable outcome for you. So I do see a lot of people waste money on LinkedIn when they treat it as if it is Google ads or if it is Facebook ads. Those are very different platforms with very different targeting criteria. So you have to not only know my clients are on this platform, but you have to know what are the actions that they're most likely to take when they're in that environment.
I love that. One of the other things I know we've seen, and granted, this might not be perfectly on point for this question, but when somebody does have an ecosystem where Google Ads is already working, or their SEO is already working, or maybe they have Meta ads or something, if and when you have the money to continue to broaden that reach, it's interesting because you can start to see all of your lead gen go up, but you need to be aware, once you start having multiple lead sources, sometimes a paid campaign actually is elevating your authority versus, so somebody, I've seen this in the past where they might not actually come in as a qualified lead through LinkedIn, but it will help validate and drive other lead sources. So sometimes it can be a supporting mechanism, but this is for more sophisticated, mature digital ecosystem. So we have seen that where it elevated the overall, even though it was not direct, Formville's direct lead gen, and that was kind of a fun thing.
So one more quick tip, and this is my number one tip to help you avoid wasting money on LinkedIn ads. No matter what kind of LinkedIn ad campaign you run, go to the little place where it says show on third-party network and toggle that off, because that is such a massive money waster. Now, if you toggle it on, you're going to see your views or your clicks absolutely skyrocket. You'll be like, oh my gosh, I have 50 times the amount of traffic. And guess what? 99% of it's going to bounce.
Yep.
So nope. If you're going to be on LinkedIn, be on LinkedIn.
Love that.
Alrighty. So this one goes back to the last Blender Reacts episode just a little bit. So from Chase over on Facebook, I got hired by a startup as their first salesperson. And they do not have a marketing department yet. So it's kind of falling all on them to do the marketing and sales. So where can they start on the marketing side that will get them the biggest ROI on their time?
Smart question.
I know. Like my chest just got heavy for Chase because it's such an overwhelming scenario.
Yep.
And gosh, there's no salesperson on the planet that doesn't want to be successful and be successful fast. So yeah, I know. Go ahead. Where would you start?
So the question, of course, for salespeople is, I only have X number of hours in a day. So where can you start to get the fastest ROI? I would say where the same place that we always start with our clients in the first 90 days. If you want to accelerate the sales pipeline, the first place to look is in your existing customer base. So if there is a campaign you can launch to your existing customers, now, one nice thing about this is they're going to be more forgiving than people who've never met you before. So it's okay to try some things out on them, respecting their time, making sure it's the appropriate level of customization within your marketing. But yeah, reaching out, asking questions, running some simple campaigns, nothing overwhelming, to your existing customers, asking for feedback, maybe reminding them of how much they love doing business with you so you can drive some more referrals, or testing a new offer with them. So that would be the first place I would start. Start with the people that already know, like, and trust you. So it's going to feel a lot safer. The second thing I would say is anything you can do to rewarm the existing leads that are currently in the pipeline. This is the beautiful little marketing secret that I'm going to share with you. That's the number one place that we start when we're looking at helping salespeople sell more. So if you're like, hey, I've got 30 deals in the pipeline that stalled, I see some commonalities here. I'm going to make like a short video email. I'm going to send it to these 30 people, or we've got a new tool that can help them make progress toward their goal. That's the kind of thing you want to run a marketing campaign around. So don't start with, oh, I need to launch our social media and be on there, 3 times a day posting stuff. Nope. You need to start as close to the point of sale as possible, because number one, it's going to be the fastest path to revenue. And number two, you're going to be a lot more familiar with what you should actually be doing. You're going to be able to ideate that and say, oh, if this customer or this prospect is at this point, what would help them take a next step? So you're not going completely outside of your wheelhouse, but you are making the most of your time and using marketing automation tools to help you do your job better.
Yep. I am thinking, remember, it's meetings. Like, yes, you need revenue, but for sales activation, nothing happens without the appropriate activity leading up to that, filling your pipeline. So everything is about getting meetings. Completely agree with Daisy. Beat the bushes that are there, right? So if you have existing customers, how can you get more? How can you get referrals? Your network of every single person in your environment. Can you get meetings with any of those people? Who should you be talking to? Their advice, their insight, that type of thing, but just be creating the right activity. So then other marketing approaches to activate sales are things that I want to at least be considering. So a couple of different examples. Account-based marketing, where you are using omni-channel marketing jargon alert, multiple different ways to reach out to a very targeted list. Now, when I say very targeted list, I mean, think 20 companies where you literally are on LinkedIn. You know exactly who you're trying to talk to, exactly what their title is. You're following them. You know what their triggers are. You have read all of the things on their website. You've read posts and briefs from their CEOs. So you literally are seeking to create value for them specifically, not broadly. And so then connect with them on social media, post things, DM them, send them clever, interesting, lumpy mail where it's an envelope, it's handwritten, and there's something that creates a memorable experience for them, but focused on value, how they define value. And then with that type of approach, however many touches you think it's going to take to get a meeting, 10x that. If you're reaching out twice, you need to reach out 20 times. If you're reaching out 3 times, you need to reach out 30 times. You have got to go the distance, and that's the right activity. Week after week after week, bringing value to a small group that you are really, really committed to is going to drive activity. And then the flip side is, if I'm going to look at digital marketing, I am going to work with a digital strategist to find out, can I win at Google AdWords? It is the closest point to actual sales activation. And you're looking for transactional keywords, where it is basically the keywords they are typing in is because they are trying to buy software. They are trying to solve a very specific problem. And so you just have to look at how much does it cost to win. So because I don't know your industry, I can't say, oh, this is expensive or this is not. And it's all relative, but I would absolutely be looking at that, because even for small companies, sometimes there can be just a gem of a keyword that's inside your budget, and it can start filling your pipeline and giving you data and insights into your market so much faster.
All right. So 2 quick tips to add to that. And thank you, Dacia. So just so you know, Dacia has been doing sales for a really, really, really long time. So she's giving you advice that's based on,
I got
actual experience. Yes, definitely. I would say number 1, don't try to do Google Ads yourself. I don't care how smart you are. You are going to waste so much money and so much time, and you will wish that you had never started. So get a real digital marketer to do that for you. And if you're like, I'm not sure I have budget for this, or you're like, how do I go and ask for budget? Cut a trade show and use that money for Google Ads. It's going to get you so much more ROI.
Yes, exactly. Go buy 100 people a cup of coffee. Do not do trade shows.
Please.
Oh my goodness.
That last one was free.
Alrighty. So kind of in the same little circle of question, how do you manage I'm sorry, this is from Jamila, by the way. How do you manage touch points across multiple platforms? It doesn't seem like there is an easy way to connect what my buyers are doing on the web versus email or social, etc. This is making it hard to see if what I'm doing is working.
Oh, I love this question. Really good. So, Jamil, you're right. When you say it's challenging, and we actually don't want to guess what the role and the goal is of each tactic. We want to plan it. And so when we're thinking about marketing strategy, we are thinking about, okay, who is the very specific target market? And when I say target market, I don't mean group of humans in an industry. I mean the human beings with a very specific title and a very specific problem that you are very great at solving. So you know the psychographics of this person really, really well. And then because you're thinking so specifically, you can think, how do they buy? What is their process? Because that's one of the questions and one of the research points that we do with our clients is think through, where do they get information? And there are certain buyer personas where they get information from peers. There are other buyer personas where they read boatloads of stuff. So blogging and publication and social media works really, really good, but it's always about the human being. And so once you're really thinking about that human being, and this is information that you can get, sometimes you can simply ask your customers or ask the people, and sometimes there are all sorts of resources you can get, and then sometimes there are educated guesses that you can make about what is the role and the goal of everything. But I'm going to break a couple fundamentals down for you so you can kind of think through this. Top of the funnel, how did they even hear about your name, and how did they become aware of their problem? Those are blogs and long tail keywords, SEO, places that they're researching. It might be PR, it might be things in publication. Oftentimes it's trade shows because that's the first time that they ever heard about you, but it's pretty far away from the point of sale. Next, we're moving down. So instead of awareness, now they're taking an action. So they paid attention to you. They clicked on a video. They liked a comment. They followed you on social media. They clicked a link and landed on your webpage. They are doing tiny mini engagements that suggest, you're saying something that's interesting to me. This is an example of where your website and your social media lives and your real sum of your content marketing. Now, once those actions, they start spending more than a couple seconds, they're spending time with you. Now, this is the tools that are trying to convert interest into inquiry, longer video, web pages that are converting and validating that problem you have is worth solving. Fill out this form, book a meeting, get it. And then same thing with email, right? They have decided to be in your email list. Now you are nurturing their interest, but they are intentionally paying attention to you, and you're moving into sales enablement. So there is always a role and a goal. So I am way up high on my soapbox right now. So Daisy, I'm going to turn it over to you. So I'm
going to bring it down into the weeds with
love it.
With the tech. Okay. So I actually hear this question a lot from people who aren't aware that tools like Google Tag Manager, scripts, pixels, and their CRM are one of the ways to solve about 70 to 80% of that trackability issue. So if you're not deploying those types of resources across the different platforms, social media has these capabilities. Any Google product is going to have these capabilities. There are lots of ways that you can actually track. Now, you obviously need to understand what it is that you're tracking and what decisions and assumptions you're going to pull from that to make, your next set of marketing campaigns. But even if there's not a direct way to say, well, I'm on YouTube and I'm on Facebook and I'm on Twitter and I'm on the website and I've got these print publications, there are also things that you can look at as analogs. So even if you don't have a direct little pixel that tracks somebody everywhere they go on the web, even if they change IP addresses and mobile device to desktop, all of that, all the things that can conflate and confuse the data, there are some things that you can infer, especially on the B2B side, because there are predictable triggers that you can activate in order to increase different types of web traffic and different types of deals. So we've definitely seen that over the last year with the Marketing Blender show. We can't look and say, well, this person visited YouTube and then they visited the website and then they visited on social media and then they opened this and then they did this. We don't have the ability to do that right now.
Not perfectly right.
But we can say that the number of qualified leads coming in from direct traffic has skyrocketed.
That's right.
And when you validate that in sales conversations, they bring up the Marketing Blender show all the time.
Yeah.
Because it's one of the touch points. It may not have even been the first thing that they saw, but it was a key trigger. So if you are having difficulty with tracking, when you do get people to engage with you, sometimes you just need to ask, like, what was the thing that stood out to you? And start gathering that kind of data, because you will be able to feed that back into your marketing system and say, hey, when we do lots of video content or we do polls on LinkedIn, we see this kind of engagement. And then, these are the kinds of conversations that we have after that. So figuring out what are the things that you can see and that you can measure. And to Daisy's point, planning in advance. Okay, we know the things we're going to be looking for. That's going to put you ahead of most people who just do stuff and then are confused by what data they're even looking at.
And we just see so many people don't track at all
Mhm.
because they're busy and they get so stressed out about launch more.
Mhm.
More. And I think it's worth mentioning, we have used every business intelligence dashboard, beautiful, pretty, flashy you can imagine. And we always roll back to good old fashioned spreadsheets so that we can see full pipeline. So because the power of data is not the numbers, it's the questions that you ask about them. Data is supposed to allow you the space to think strategically, what does that mean? And Daisy is so right. Sometimes you will see what we'll refer to as a tail. So you'll be able to see, wow, this metric started going up when we activated this thing back here. And so, but it takes a little bit of time, but it's about the quality of the questions. And so awesome question, because it tells me you're asking the right questions and you will put yourself on the pathway to that. So side note, we've got a couple of different resources on this for any of you guys. So if you're curious about that planning for what role and goal, you can look in Corporate Caffeine, the book, on Audible or on Amazon. And there's a sales mapping chapter that literally helps you assign roles and goals. And then in addition, we've got a couple digital marketing episodes where Ramsey does go into some tracking. And
Yes.
Third, just email us because if you've got a really specific question, we want to help you, and it might become another episode. So
That's right.
Alrighty. So the next question is from Natalia over on Facebook. And she's saying, this is hit home. This really hits home. Okay. So I struggle with perfectionism as a marketer. This makes it hard to get things done. And I always feel rushed. When is good enough? Good enough with marketing.
So I'm going to go look in the mirror for a while you answer this question.
Oh,
for
I
her.
was about to be like, well,
No.
I'm not a perfectionist. So, but yeah, this one's definitely coming back to Daisy. And I think I might be tossing this one to Samaria as well. Natalia, you are not alone. And we actually see this very, very frequently. I actually do think that this is a very common trait of very talented marketers. And I want to, first of all, say bravo, because it means you care so much. You care about quality. You're really focusing on stewarding the brand that you're representing. And that is so important. And so then you want to think about, okay, in regards to perfectionism, sometimes you do want to turn it on and sometimes you don't. So what tactics? So social media does not have long, exhaustive lifespans of each post. So if you are spending an hour for a single post, no. We need to do a ROI analysis, just a loose one on your time, right? Because your time is important. And so when it's those kind of things, social media is so great because you get data and you get to see very quickly what people are engaging with. So launch early, launch often, just keep going, because even sometimes your biggest mistakes can actually be big, huge wins. Hello, Buc-ee's, who does typos on their billboards on purpose because it works so good for them. So you never know. And there's a lot of really interesting case studies about when you're human, humans respond positively to that. So, but then, if this is a really big, significant piece, get second eyes on it, take a little bit more time, but just put some time constraints around what you're working on. Because good enough, the appropriate place for good enough is out the door, because you cannot drive results if you don't get it out on the streets. And that's it. And the other thing is, humans are complicated. We do so much analysis and prep and plan on the humans we're trying to serve, and we still get surprised. Now, as long as you have some assumptions that you can test against and test about, you'll learn. And that's the key, sweetie. Like, just keep going, because the more you get out there, the more you actually build your personal mastery. And I will choose mastery over perfection every day. So I believe in you. I love this question. I just want to give her like a big hug.
All right. So Natalia, I can't even say a recovering perfectionist, because this is an ongoing trait for me. Excuse me. There are two areas that are non-negotiable. If it's something that can cause harm to the brand, it has to be done correctly. And if it's something that can waste the budget, it has to be done correctly. So as an example, if you have information that's going out that needs to be legally compliant, technically accurate, making promises that are true, things like that, or making sure that something's not going out that's offensive or puts the brand in a bad light or is going to cause a media firestorm of negativity, those are things that you need to pay attention to. The other thing is, if you have a giant complex campaign with 100 moving parts, you need to identify like the 5 or 6 things that if they're not done right, you're going to launch that campaign and all of that money is going to go right down the drain. And this is something that happens. We've all seen it, like 10,000, 20,000, 100,000. There are brands out there that have blown $1 billion because they messed something up, because they didn't check all the boxes before they sent something out. You definitely don't want that to be you. But everything else is fixable. It really is. If you have someone writing blog content for you and it's like, well, we're going to let these pilot for 6 months until I have time to go through and proofread every single one of them, make sure everything's exactly right. Blogs can be edited. Okay, they can be updated. It's one of those things where a lot of SEO blogs, it's mostly about driving visibility for the website. It's not like you have passionate readers who are out there like, oh, we're waiting for another blog to be posted so we can go in there and read it. And oh my gosh, they said 2023 when they meant 2024. And it's the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Not everything is equally important. So learning to delegate and communicate is going to help save you from perfection, and understanding that some things are stylistic preferences. So if somebody else is going to do something differently than I would do it, okay. If they're getting the results that we need to get, then it's okay if that's not how I would have done it. If that's not the color I would have picked, or if I didn't like the stock image, it's all right. Those things don't matter. As long as you're communicating about the non-negotiables, like if I'm handing off a task to someone, I'm like, this is the thing that if it's not done right, like you have to have the meta descriptions in the back end, or there's no SEO value. And we just spent 6 months writing blog posts for nothing because Google can't see it. Like stuff like that, or toggle this off or on in the ad campaign. So we're not, advertising in China when we're supposed to be advertising in the US. All real things that marketers have seen happen. Yep. Those are the things you need to be communicating with the people on your team about, because if it's not the end of the world, it's not the end of the world.
Samaria, you handle a boatload, like a huge volume of content. Yeah. And I've seen you go through a big journey with this, like in the last couple of years. Like, any tips or anything about what you've specifically learned on this side?
Good enough is never good enough. No, I'm kidding.
Everything we said.
No, so
girl, I love you.
I honestly, the one thing that I've had to teach myself is that, like Daisy said, not everybody's going to view things or do things the way that you would do them. So when people have critiques that kind of make you feel like I put all this work in and like now they're saying, oh, they don't like it, they don't want it up. And you're just like, how do I perfect this for them? I just think that the only thing that you can do is test, try, see what people are going to say, make some tweaks, and then also offer your point of view. I think that's actually helped me a lot, just growing as a professional, and also being a perfectionist, because like, even though I may think it's perfect, there's always going to be somebody else who doesn't. And I think that's okay. I think everybody just needs to be okay with different and okay with not being all cookie cutter, especially on social media. Like there are times sometimes like I always get nervous if I get a text from a client that's like, hey, about that post that you posted today. And so I used to be the kind of person that would just immediately go delete as soon as I saw that, hey, about this. But now I just kind of wait to see what they're going to say, because typically it's like, you forgot to put a period at the end of the sentence or something like that. So like, just kind of loosen up, let go a little bit, and just allow people to have their own, opinion about the things that you're doing. But don't allow that to discourage you from continuing to create and continuing to hone your craft, I guess is my advice.
I love that.
Mhm.
We've seen your work get more risky and thus get more high performing. And it has been amazing, because when you started putting some more risky stuff out there, the clients loved it. And so then it was really validating, but we wouldn't have found that out had you not launched, instead of
Yeah.
overanalyzed it. So
Yes.
yeah.
I'm
And-
definitely getting to the point where I'm like, okay, more memes, less memes. What should we do? How do we get this past legal? Those things, just in case we, run into that. I don't think I have yet, but yeah. So just having fun.
Yeah.
All right. One final takeaway for perfectionists: you're allowed to be proud of stuff that's not perfect.
Nice.
So don't snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by looking at an enormously successful campaign and being like, yeah, but this one thing wasn't right. Don't do that to yourself, please.
I love that so much. It reminds me of a story about 7 or 8 years ago. We used to collaborate with this really wonderful, they're still a wonderful PR company, but we had a shared client, and I respected the CEO so much. Now, she has a very different background than I do. PR and marketing are friendly, or supposed to be. But we had a core disagreement about how to manage a component of the brand. And she kind of called me out on it in a meeting in front of a client. And I was like, and my immediate reaction was like, oh my God, what mistake did I do? And thankfully I've got decent poker face when it comes to being competitive. And so we navigate that conversation calmly, kind of agree to disagree and, come back. And it was so healthy, because what ended up happening is, when I thought about it, I was like, I see where she's coming from, and I'm still right. And it was a really significant moment in my career where I realized sometimes people's feedback or their point of view is neither criticism nor is it always correct. And it really helped me go. And, Samara, you were touching on this a moment ago about like, no, I had a rationale for this. Like, I have a reason why I'm doing this. And it was just a profound moment of like, just kind of this confidence thing that just went kook, where I stood on stronger foundation, but I needed that challenge for me to kind of go through this process of, oh no, I can handle that. So I don't know, but that is really cool. I love that tip. Good question.
Alrighty. So from Lee, this was sent in earlier. I am a solopreneur and I am just starting out with a tiny budget. I need to build a website for my business, but I can't afford to hire a marketing agency. What can I do?
Oh, I love this. Good question, Lee, and good decisions, because a 20,000, 30,000 more website is not going to guarantee you sales. So good job being thoughtful about this. So my number one, before we get into really tactical about how to save money on websites, make sure it's right. So the thing about a website is thinking about what is it supposed to do for you. So 2 things, I'm going to overly simplify, but 2 things. It is supposed to mirror back to your audience the problem that they have that you solve. Too often we see with websites, people are like, this is all the things I do and I love this. And that's not interesting to your prospective buyers. And so really making sure that your website communicates that you specialize in creating a better transformation for them or solving a problem for them absolutely critical. So your messaging is so important. So that's one where just foundationally, you got to get this right and you need to really own it. I'm about to go into Upwork and like some other super specific type of things, but I want you to kind of give like your initial thoughts before I start getting really tactical.
Sure. So I actually am working with a couple of solopreneurs who are in this situation right now in our marketing blender lab. So we're working through this in real time, got tools that I can talk to you about, and I will do that in a second. I would say that the places you do need to spend if you want to have a good website are, number one, nailing your buyer persona. So you understand what your website is for, to Dacia's point, and how to talk to them on your website. And the second thing I would recommend you do is get a brand identity put together. Now, yes, you can go on Upwork, you can go on Fiverr. If you want to message me on LinkedIn, I'll tell you the last person I worked with that I was really happy with. And for less than $500, got logo, color palette, fonts, iconography, patterns and backgrounds, all of the things that I needed to put together a website myself. So a simple website myself, one of those build it in a day kind of things. But those are the two things that are, number one, going to help make sure you're talking to the right person in the right way. And number two, if you have brand elements that you can work with, your website is going to look professional more than if you try to build from any kind of template that's out there. So the level of customization that you need to have is the colors are right, the fonts are right, they're consistent. You know what kind of photography you want on there, and you've got some kind of backgrounds that you can put in. Like modern websites, as you scroll through, it's not just boxes on a blank page. It's like, oh, here's this pattern. Oh, here it's in reverse. Here's it's kind of an overlay. So you've got different brand elements that are in there. The last website that I built was in a platform called MailerLite. And it's literally like $20 a month. You can build a website on it. It hosts it. You get email included. You can build forms in it. So it's like a little mini package where you can build and launch a website very inexpensively. Yes, you're going to have to learn how all the knobs and twiddly bits work, and that's okay because that's what online tutorials are for. You're going to have to put that effort into it. But if you're starting with a strong foundation of I know my brand messaging and I know my brand identity, then you can build a decent website yourself if you're willing to put in the time to learn some basic tools. Now, the thing about a platform like MailerLite, you're going to be very restricted in what you can build. That's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do not go on WordPress and download WordPress Bakery or Elementor or Divi or one of the ones that are built for actual real web designers and developers, because it's like being in Adobe Photoshop or InDesign, where it's like, this has so many features, I cannot figure out anything. You want to be very, gated in what you're allowed to do, so you can just focus on building it and getting the basics in place that your customers need. Typically, they need to be able to see what you're about. They need to understand what it is that you're offering and the value that it has to them. They need to feel seen and connected with. They need a place that they can subscribe to your newsletter or fill out a form to be contacted. They need a way to get into your contact database so you can email them. If you've got those things in place, you've got the basics of a website that any solopreneur would actually need. As you grow, you can add plugins or, you can migrate that onto a different platform. But those are the basics I would recommend that you have in place. So, instead of spending even $5,000 to $10,000 on a website, you can take the few $1,000s that you have, make sure you're nailing the identity and the messaging, and then fill in the rest of that with your time.
Completely agree.
Alrighty. Well, that actually is kind of time.
Okay.
I didn't realize we were going to run up. But David Ball over on LinkedIn did say he found the show again and he loves the updated look. So
awesome.
Thanks, David.
Fantastic. And he's talking about the signage and not the makeup makeover that
Although we did have.
we did
We did do TV
had
makeovers.
celebrity makeup artists come in.
Share who cool. We love you. Thank
It was
you.
awesome.
It was awesome. So, well, you guys, this is fun. We love this. We really, really want to see you accomplish your goals in a sane way. And, one of the things that really rises up for me is that business is a journey. Marketing is a journey. Growth and achieving those revenue goals and that sustainable revenue, it's a journey. Don't hate the journey. Embrace the learnings, embrace the tension. Keep asking great questions, keep finding resources that are affordable, and just keep fortifying your personal knowledge, because that is how you will win, is if you go the distance and you're consistent. So thank you guys. We love you so much and we appreciate it. If you haven't, please hit that subscribe button, and we will see you next week. Onward and upward.